Martha, karibu.
Good evening, everyone. We are all here, excellencies, distinguished guests. We are here as acquaintances or friends of His Excellency, Dr. Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka. I have worked with him for a long time. Maybe he may or may not remember, but I've reminded him once or twice when I was a young magistrate before the age of 30, and he was a young lawyer. He did appear before me. You don't always remember people who appear before you, but I liked the way, I noticed the way he handled the case and his clients, and he led them, because it was a case that people could reconcile, he led them to reconciliation. Maybe that's a trait in diplomacy. And later on in life, I met him as a member of parliament. I found him in parliament in 1993. For the young ones, that may sound like a long time, and it is. We've been around. So, and we've worked with him since. He's an easy person to work with, amiable, respectful, a diplomat to the core. And even though we were on the opposing side those days, he was a minister in the Karua government, I was a member of the opposition, and we still were able to relate. I do recall when we started the formal journey to the constitutional review process. It is His Excellency, Dr. Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, who was able to lead the KANU team to negotiate with us and to address us in a manner that we could actually sit down and negotiate. You may not remember that, but that was the Bomas and Safari Park process. We have later worked closely on the same side. In 2002, when we came into government, where he became the Minister for Home Affairs, and I was Minister for Water at that time. We have worked well, and I know he's a people person and a great team member, team player. We've also worked together in opposition when we were both out of government for the last 12 years. We have worked together, and more lately, in the 2022 presidential elections, we worked very closely, and after whatever transpired, we have continued to work together, and now we are together forming a broad coalition to transform the country. I would just want to conclude by saying that Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka is not just a diplomat because he has worked as one. He's a born diplomat, a great person to work with, and a person who is open and transparent in his work. And with those very many remarks, I want to call my friend, age mate, Dr. Mohisa Kitui, former Secretary General of UNCTAD, and a person who was a colleague minister. We were in college together, then in parliament together, then in government together, and now working together in the opposition. Yeah.
Asante sana. Your Excellencies, Ambassadors and High Commissioners, friends of Kenya, Your Excellencies and honorable leaders of political parties, other friends of Dr. Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, ladies and gentlemen. Nice things have already been said about our host today. I'm not going to repeat those. I just want to say one or two little things that don't so much mark what he did, but why we miss such talent in public leadership in the country today. The first 10 years of my acquaintance with Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, he was a Minister of Government, and I was an opposition parliamentarian. The highest point of our altercations was during the crisis, the genocide in Rwanda, when I brought to Parliament a motion of adjournment to discuss the failure of African diplomacy and the failure of the world to stop the butcher of innocent civilians in that then sad place. Since then, we even got very, very closely together, because after the 2002 elections, I became Minister of Trade and Industry and was Foreign Minister. We were both members of Council of the East African Community. So for a very, very intense 3-4 years, we were intimately involved in negotiation of a common market for East Africa. I remember we were spending sleepless nights with Jakaya Kikwete and the Deputy Prime Minister of Uganda to beat the deadline, because there was that drive and desire for East African integration. But beyond that, he's known as Mr. Peace Builder for his work not just in Sudan, but also the Mbagadi process for peace building in Somalia. We mention these things not so much as a celebration of an icon of diplomacy, but as a sharp contrast to the sad situation in which we find ourselves today. Unfortunately, egos and guns have been bigger in supply than brains in South Sudan, and you see how the promise of the youngest African country has turned into disaster. The speech from South Sudan and the poorest victims of those that fever in our country. Similarly, Sudan unravels as Khartoum becomes a no-go area. It pains those of us who have associated with peace building to know that we have a president who, sheerly for personal interest in bloody gold, is dragging Kenya into a crisis that's not our own. And he brings people to this territory to try to form a so-called shadow government, when those people have gained their reputation for slaughtering black people in Darfur and Zagawa. It's a disgrace that could never happen if Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka had his way, had a say in how Kenya runs its diplomacy. Similarly, we are passing through difficult times. Today, as I was coming here, I heard the announcement of the Franco-German defense agreement. The first time that Europe has had to look at building a new architecture for defense because of rumbles across the Atlantic. It's a difficult times. But for us, we believe that friends of Kenya will still have the attention to support our democratic project. They could still stand with the efforts of people like Kalonzo Musyoka. Traditionally, the struggle for Kenya's democracy has been watered by the principled statement of the diplomatic community that we stand for what is good for the country, without fear of intimidation, without being blackmailed, without pretending to hail a king as having the best clothes when you can see that the king is naked. Sorry, it's not my day. I just want to say we contrast what we have heard and what is existing in the Kenyan gene pool and the inadequate capacity, competence, and execution of diplomatic duty that we witness in our country today. I am proud to be associated with Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, and thank you very much for making us share this important day in your life. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.